Have you ever seen someone walk into a courtroom as if it were the VIP complaints desk inside their own shopping mall? That morning, the room was moving at its usual slow rhythm. A small line of people, the rustle of papers, the soft hum of the air conditioner. Judge Caprio was working through parking tickets like he had 1,000 times before, voice calm, almost conversational. Then she appeared. Not from the hallway like everyone else, but from the side door the officers usually used. She pushed it open with the ease of someone walking through the back entrance of a familiar store. No hesitation, no searching for where to go. She stepped inside, already scrolling her phone, heels tapping a quick, impatient rhythm on the tile. The clerk at the front desk lifted her head. "Ma'am, you need to check in over here?" The young woman barely glanced up. She gave a small wave of her hand, the kind you give a valet when you're sure they know who you are. "I'm just here for a minute," she said. "It's nothing." Between her fingers, metal keys swung, a sleek fob with a luxury logo that caught the fluorescent light. On her wrist, a thin gold bracelet shifted each time she scrolled. She didn't sit. She didn't even look for a seat. She planted herself near the front as if the room would adjust around her. The clerk tried again, a little firmer this time. "Ma'am, you still have to—" "I said I'm not staying long," she cut in, eyes never leaving her screen. Up on the bench, Judge Caprio kept reading from the file in front of him. Routine case, standard fine. He signed one paper, handed another back. Only when the clerk slipped a new folder onto his desk did something change. He opened it, glanced at the citation, and then at the name. He stopped. "Next case," he said. "State of Rhode Island versus—" He squinted lightly, then looked over the edge of his glasses to the young woman still standing, phone in hand. "Miss DeLuca." She didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped forward like she was approaching a service counter. "Let's just skip this, Judge," she said, voice smooth, practiced. "My brother owns Providence Mall. I parked where we always park." A chuckle rippled from somewhere in the back, quickly swallowed. Judge Caprio didn't smile. "And what?" he asked quietly. "Does your brother's mall have to do with a street in front of a school zone?" The room woke up at those words. Heads turned. A man in a worn jacket straightened in his seat. The clerk paused mid-stamp. The young woman finally pulled her eyes from the phone, as if realizing for the first time that people were actually watching her. From the second row, an older woman leaned toward her neighbor and muttered, just loud enough to carry, "Here we go again. These kids with money." The girl's head snapped around. "Excuse me?" she said, brows lifting, more surprised than offended. Judge Caprio tapped his pen once on the bench. "Miss DeLuca," he said, "please take a seat." "I prefer to stand," she replied. "I won't be long." Her keys clicked softly against her palm. The screen of her phone lit up again, a new notification she didn't quite dare check. Under the cool expression, there was a tightness at the corner of her mouth, a quick swallow she hoped no one saw. In that small room, something had shifted. It was no longer just another ticket, just another morning. The people in the benches could feel it. This wasn't about a car in the wrong place. It was about someone who had never once considered that the rules might actually apply to her. She didn't sit right away. She lowered herself into the chair slowly, as if unsure whether it was meant for her. The earlier bravado thinned for a moment, barely noticeable unless you were looking closely. Judge Caprio glanced through the citation, then lifted his eyes. "Miss DeLuca," he began, "what do you do for work?" She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, buying time. "I'm an operations consultant." She spoke the title with confidence, but the pause lingered in the air afterward. The judge folded his hands. "Meaning what exactly?" She shifted in her seat. "I help with aesthetics." He nodded once, thoughtful. "So, You don't officially work at the mall. Her reply came too quickly. It's complicated. A faint murmur passed through the benches. Nothing loud, just the subtle rustle of people registering that something wasn't lining up. Caprio tapped one finger on the file. How long has your family owned the mall? 15 years, she said. My father bought it when I was a kid. After he passed, my brother stepped in. That last sentence stumbled out. She looked past the judge, her focus slipping somewhere far from the room. Her jaw tightened before she caught herself and straightened her shoulders again. So you've always had access, he said gently. Of course. And that access has sometimes made you feel parking rules are flexible? She drew in a breath, not defensive, just tired. It's not like that. We've always parked in certain spots. It's routine. From the corner, the same older woman whispered to her neighbor. Her father helped build that place. He treated people right. She's not him. The young woman turned her head sharply, eyes narrowing. But this time, she didn't speak. Something in the comment hit deeper than simple annoyance. Judge Caprio continued. Miss DeLuca, I want to be sure I understand. Have you received warnings before? She hesitated. Just one beat, but enough. I don't think so. He slid a printout forward. There's a record of a prior notice. It was paid immediately. Her expression flickered. My brother takes care of things like that, she admitted quietly. And you didn't know? No. The word came out small, stripped of the earlier certainty. She exhaled slowly. I don't usually deal with tickets. He handles them. So you weren't aware there was an issue? I wasn't ignoring anything, she insisted. I just assumed. The judge leaned back, studying her not with judgment, but with a kind of patient curiosity. You mentioned earlier that you didn't mean disrespect. Why say that now? She looked down at her hands, fingers tightening around the key fob. Because, she stopped, searching for the right phrase. Because I'm exhausted. That's all. Her voice softened in a way that surprised even her. The courtroom, once prickling with irritation toward her, shifted. The people watching were suddenly seeing a different layer. Not entitlement, but someone fraying at the edges while trying to hold her posture together. Judge Caprio's tone followed that shift. Having access, he said quietly, is not the same as having authority over the law. She blinked, something unsettled passing through her eyes. From behind, the older woman added softly, her father was strict about rules. Funny how that works. This time, the young woman winced, not angrily, but as if the comment tugged at something she hadn't touched in years. The judge closed the file lightly. Miss DeLuca, he said, you carry yourself like someone who wants the world to stop asking questions. But the truth is, today we have to ask a few. She swallowed, unsteady for the first time. In that fragile, revealing moment, the room understood. Beneath the polished confidence was someone standing on ground that had begun to crack long before she stepped into that courtroom. The judge turned a page in the file, the sound crisp enough to cut through the silence. Let's clarify something, Miss DeLuca. Where exactly did you park that morning? She lifted her chin, as if reclaiming a bit of her earlier confidence. Right next to the mall entrance, like always. Her certainty sounded rehearsed, polished even. But the moment she said it, Judge Caprio reached to his right and picked up a printed photo. This, he said, placing it on the bench where she could see, is where your vehicle was recorded. She leaned forward. The image showed a yellow curb, a sign that read, School Safety Zone, and her luxury SUV sitting squarely in a restricted bus area. For a heartbeat, she didn't breathe. That's not the mall entrance? A man in the second row shifted, his posture sharpening. He wore a faded work jacket, his hands clasped tightly. When he spoke, his voice was steady but simmering with something deeper. "Judge, I'm the father of a student from that school. My boy was getting off the bus that morning. I had to slam the brakes because her car blocked the view." The courtroom froze. Even the clerk stopped typing. She turned toward him with a stunned expression, not combative this time. I didn't see anyone," she stammered. "That's the point," the man said. "You weren't supposed to be there." Her pulse thudded visibly at her neck. She looked down at the photograph again, as if hoping to find a detail that would rescue her. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know. I thought—" Judge Caprio raised a hand. "Let's go back for a moment. You told us you park there like always. If this isn't your usual place, why say that?" Tension stretched thin across the room. Her mouth opened, but no words followed. It was the first time she seemed truly cornered, not by accusation, but by her own contradictions catching up faster than she could outrun them. The judge waited. He didn't push, didn't lecture. He simply let the silence do the work. Her eyes darted to her hands, gripping the key fob so tightly the metal pressed into her skin. "I misspoke," she managed finally. "I was stressed. I wasn't thinking." But even she didn't sound convinced. A faint rustle moved through the benches. People exchanging looks, some sympathetic, some unimpressed. It wasn't hostility. It was the dawning realization that something wasn't being said. Something bigger. Judge Caprio's tone stayed even. "This isn't about stress, Miss DeLuca. It's about accuracy, and we're not getting it." Her breathing picked up, shallow and uneven. The polished, controlled version of herself was slipping. The father added quietly, "I'm not here for a fight. But that morning could have gone differently. That's all I want her to understand." His calmness hit harder than anger ever could. She nodded just once, eyes blinking rapidly as she tried to hold her composure. The room, which had watched her stride in with unshakable certainty, now saw someone struggling to maintain her footing. Judge Caprio lowered his voice, but the softness made it even more piercing. "Miss DeLuca," he said, "I think there's something you're not telling us." No one moved. She looked up at him, the mask of poise finally cracking around the edges. Not from guilt alone, but from the dread of a truth she'd been avoiding long before she walked into this courtroom. The room held its breath, waiting for what would come next. Judge Caprio didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He placed another sheet on the bench, a small stack of citations, neatly clipped together, and slid them forward. "Miss DeLuca," he said, "these are records of 2 additional violations in the same school zone, both within the last 30 days. She froze, her expression blanking before she managed a tight swallow. That can't be right. I wasn't there." The judge tapped the page once. "Same vehicle, same location. Times early in the morning. Your license plate." "I didn't park there," she insisted. "Not twice, not ever." He lifted 2 blurry camera snapshots. The vehicle was unmistakably hers. Same color, same model, same custom plates. But the driver's face was just a smudge of motion. A thin thread of panic crossed her features. "Miss DeLuca," he said gently, "do you always drive this car?" "Yes," she answered immediately. Too immediately. He leaned back. "Always?" The second time he asked it, the word landed like a weight. She inhaled sharply, shoulders tightening. Her fingers twisted around the key fob, spinning it once, twice, until the metal clicked. The silence stretched. "No," she said finally, barely more than a whisper. A murmur rippled through the courtroom, not loud but charged. She drew in another breath, then pushed the truth out as if it hurt. My niece takes the car sometimes. My brother's daughter. She's 17. The judge's expression didn't change, but the room shifted. Several older attendees exchanged knowing looks, the kind reserved for adults who recognize the cost of shielding someone young. She doesn't have full driving privileges yet, the judge said. I know, the woman replied, voice cracking, then tightening again. She uses it to get to the mall early in the mornings. She was preparing for an interview at one of the boutiques. She begged me not to tell her father. He's strict, very strict. I thought I could just take the blame. The judge closed the citation slowly, as if giving her time to breathe. Is your niece aware she parked in a school safety zone? She didn't do it on purpose, the woman said quickly. She was rushing. She gets nervous easily. She didn't think it mattered if she stopped there for a minute. She thought, her voice faltered. She thought it would be fine. From the benches, the father who had spoken earlier rose halfway, then sat again, choosing his words carefully. Miss, he said, someone's kid was stepping off a bus that morning. Being in a hurry doesn't make that invisible. The woman blinked hard, her lashes trembling. Shame washed through her expression, cutting through whatever pride she still held on to. I know, she whispered. I know. The room was quiet in a way that wasn't judgmental, more like everyone was watching a person finally stop running. Judge Caprio folded his hands. So these tickets, they weren't yours? She shook her head. No. And yet you walked in here prepared to carry them. I promised her, she said. I told her family sticks together. She was terrified her father would think she couldn't handle responsibility. I didn't want to be the reason she lost her chance. Her voice wavered. Not dramatic, not rehearsed, just raw. The older woman in the second row, the one who had muttered earlier, softened her expression. She didn't speak this time, but the shift was visible. The judge studied Miss DeLuca a long moment, not with anger, but with a kind of quiet, heavy understanding. Miss DeLuca, he said at last, this case stopped being about a parking violation a long time ago. Her eyes closed briefly, as if she'd been waiting for those words, dreading them, yet relieved they were finally spoken. And for the first time since she stepped through that side door, she looked less like someone who felt above the rules, and more like someone facing the consequences of a choice she made out of fear, loyalty, and a complicated love that had led her far beyond what she ever intended. She sat very still, hands clasped so tightly the knuckles paled. Whatever armor she had carried into the courtroom had slipped away entirely. Judge Caprio adjusted his glasses, his gaze steady but not unkind. Let's talk about your niece, he said. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, struggling to find ground that didn't move beneath her. She's a good kid, she began finally, voice faint. She works hard. She's just scared of disappointing people. The judge tilted his head. And you're not? The question struck with quiet precision. Her breath hitched. A flicker, the smallest tremor, crossed her composure. He didn't rush her. He let her sit with the truth she'd been avoiding. I didn't want her first real opportunity to fall apart, she said. I've been trying to help her, to show her that mistakes don't ruin everything. Caprio's eyes softened. No, he said gently. Mistakes don't ruin everything, but hiding them can. A hush settled over the room, not judgmental but contemplative. People leaned forward slightly, the way they did when the conversation stopped being about a ticket and became about something everyone recognized from their own lives. She panicked when she told me, the woman continued, voice shaking now. She said she was late, she was flustered, she didn't know the area. She begged me not to tell her father. I thought I was protecting her. And instead, the judge said, you placed yourself here. shielding her from consequences she needs to understand. She didn't argue. She just lowered her eyes, tears gathering but held with sheer will. "She's already afraid of making the wrong move," she whispered. "If my brother finds out she messed up before she even started, she'll feel like she's failed before she's begun." The judge rested his palms lightly on the bench. "I've seen parents and relatives try to protect young people this way," he said. "It never works. They don't learn the right lessons. They learn to stay silent." A few heads in the gallery nodded. Older men and women who had lived through similar dynamics, who had seen what overprotection could do. Miss DeLuca's voice thinned. "I thought I was doing the right thing. She's so anxious. I didn't want her punished." "Responsibility," Caprio replied, "isn't punishment." Silence again. Heavier this time because it carried understanding. Then he asked, "Does your brother know anything about these violations?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "No. And if he hears it from you, she'll think I betrayed her. She won't forgive me." "Perhaps," the judge said. "You're afraid of disappointing him too." Her lips parted, surprised. Something inside her cracked not loudly, but quietly. The kind of break you feel more than hear. He spoke without lecturing, simply reflecting what life had taught him. "I've witnessed many families," he said, "where love is measured by how well problems are hidden. Those young people grow into adults who fear every mistake. They break under expectations no one intended to place on them." She listened as if the words were being etched directly into her. He leaned forward slightly. "You are not here because your niece erred. You are here because you decided her fear was too heavy for her to carry. So you carried it for her. And the longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes." A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it quickly, almost apologetically. The room stayed respectfully still. Caprio continued, his voice almost grandfatherly now. "Miss DeLuca, the law does not exist to shame young people. It exists to teach them that actions matter. Protecting someone you love is admirable, but protecting them from learning?" He paused. "That can set them on a path far worse than a ticket." She drew a slow, unsteady breath. Then came a turn no one expected. "I'm going to ask something unusual," the judge said. "Bring your niece here tomorrow morning. I want to hear directly from her." Whispers swirled instantly through the benches. A few surprised glances shot toward the front. Even the clerk looked up in astonishment. Miss DeLuca stared at the judge, stunned. You want her to come here?" "Yes," he said calmly. "This isn't only your burden. Let her speak. Let her understand what nearly happened. And let her see that honesty is safer than silence." She pressed a hand to her forehead, overwhelmed. "I don't know how she'll react," she whispered. "You do," Caprio said. "That's why you're afraid." He gathered the papers and set them aside. "I'm giving both of you a chance," he said, with a weight that resonated through the room. "Don't waste it." The young woman nodded slowly, not in defeat, but in a dawning acceptance. For the first time all morning, she looked like someone ready to face what came next. And the courtroom, sensing the shift, exhaled with her. The next morning, the courtroom carried a different kind of quiet. Not tense, not impatient, but anticipatory. People who had been there the day before had returned, settling into the benches with the hush of an audience waiting for the final act of a story they'd become invested in. At precisely 9 o'clock, the side door opened again. But this time it wasn't the confident stride of Miss DeLuca. It was a much smaller presence. A young girl stepped inside, clutching a canvas tote against her chest. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, her steps careful, measured. No phone in her hand, no jewelry flashing. Just a teenager trying to make herself smaller in a room that suddenly felt enormous. Behind her came her aunt, composed, but clearly sleepless. They exchanged a brief glance before approaching the bench, not with entitlement, but with the humility of two people who had spent the night reckoning with truth. Judge Caprio looked at the girl first. "You must be Sophia." She nodded, voice barely above a breath. "Yes, sir." "No need to be nervous," he said gently. "We're here to talk, not to frighten you." Sophia pressed her lips together, grateful but still visibly rattled. "Can you tell me," the judge continued, "why you were driving your aunt's car that morning?" She tightened her grip on the tote. "I had an interview at the mall. I wanted to impress them. They said being late would look bad. I didn't want to start off wrong." "And the school zone?" he asked. She swallowed. "I didn't know it was restricted. I just pulled in for a minute. I thought no one would mind." Her honesty was disarming in its simplicity. No excuses, no performance. Just a young person admitting a poor choice. The judge picked up one of the photographs, turned it so she could see it. "Do you recognize where this is?" "Yes." Her voice trembled. "I didn't see the signs. I was looking at the time." "Do you know," he said softly, "how close your car came to obstructing a student getting off a school bus?" Sophia's eyes widened, not in defensiveness, but in horror. "Yes," she whispered. "My dad told me." A ripple passed through the room. Miss DeLuca stiffened beside her. Caprio raised a brow slightly. "Your father knows?" The girl nodded. "He saw the letters. He didn't say anything. I think he wanted to see if we would." The aunt blinked, stunned. A quiet shock passed across her face. The realization that her brother hadn't been deceived, only patient. Sophia continued, her voice breaking. "I didn't want him to think I couldn't handle things on my own. I asked my aunt to keep it quiet. I didn't mean to cause trouble." Miss DeLuca lowered her head, guilt and relief mixing into something fragile and unsteady. The judge considered them both. Two people who had been trapped not by wrongdoing alone, but by their fear of disappointing someone they loved. He set down the photos. "All right," he said. "Here's what we're going to do." The gallery leaned forward, holding its breath. "The citations for the actual violations will stand," he said, "because they reflect real events." Neither aunt nor niece objected. They nodded, accepting the responsibility. "Sophia," he continued, "you will enroll in a short safety course for young drivers, not as punishment, but to help you understand how small choices on the road can have large consequences." "Yes, sir," she said quickly. "I will, I promise." "And as for you, Miss DeLuca," she straightened, bracing. "You'll write a letter to the city council," he said, "explaining what you've learned from this experience. Use your own voice. Speak honestly." She exhaled, almost shakily. "I can do that." "This isn't about fines," Caprio added. "It's about understanding the difference between shielding someone and guiding them." His final words settled over the room like a closing chord. The law doesn't punish mistakes. It punishes pride. Learn the difference. A long pause followed, not heavy but full. Then the judge nodded once. "You're both free to go." As they stepped away from the bench, Sophia slipped her hand into her aunt's. It wasn't dramatic, just a small, human gesture, reassurance moving both ways. Near the doors, Miss DeLuca paused, looked at her niece, and said quietly, "Let's walk to the car, and this time, we'll do everything right." The courtroom watched them leave, two figures side by side, carrying not shame, but a kind of hard-earned clarity. And the aftertaste that lingered long after they were gone was simple and deeply real. Justice had been done gently, but firmly, the way it should be.